You might say the issue of federal land is a big story, especially when you consider how much land the feds actually own. 650 million acres. That's more than 1/4 of all the land in the United States. So which agencies control the majority of all of those millions of acres? Well, there are actually four: the Forest Service, the National Park Service, the Bureau of Land Management, and the Fish and Wildlife Service. Another point that most people probably don't realize is most of the federal government's land is concentrated in the West. Over half of the land in the 11 western states and Alaska is owned by the federal government. With all that federal land in the West, it may be one of the reasons why some of the more controversial cases involving land ownership pop up in that part of the country, such as the standoff in Oregon involving protesters supporting two ranchers imprisoned for arson on federal land, and that Clive Bundy standoff in Nevada. That was the dispute that began over unpaid grazing fees on federal land. The last point on federal lands is what it's mainly used for. The main purposes of federal land ownership are preservation, recreation, and development of national resources. But across the country, there are real concerns about how federal authorities apply justice when someone is accused of doing something wrong on federal land. Take those two ranchers convicted of arson on federal land in Oregon. They were originally given sentences of no longer than 1 year, but the government appealed and succeeded in getting the mandatory minimum punishment of 5 years handed down to both.